Hey guys, Tim here, back with another episode of the Chicago and Northwestern Harvard Subdivision in N-Scale with my first update for the 2025 year. I'm excited to keep the fact that I'm able to get some more progress done because work has been crazy lately. So let's just dive right in and take a look at the to-do list. So here is kind of the first chunk of my to-do list for the layout, including some things that I've done. We got the wall built, bench works built, track is all laid, it's all wired. We got the weathering for the track rails all done for the entire first level, and we started, obviously, as you can see in the background from this clip from last time, getting the backdrops installed. So the goals for this episode was to finish getting the backdrops installed and get lighting done on the main level, which would be a massive, massive update. So in order to get the lighting done, I had to actually do some additional work to get ready for the second level. So I had to get the 1x4s down, make sure they're all nice and level, that go on those shelf frames just to give ourselves a little bit of distance. And also because there's overhang for the 1x4s and then the lighting is going to go underneath. I'm using the strips of LED lights that's going to go over, and you can see, and first of all, I'll apologize in this video. Life was so busy, I really did a bad job of recording as I worked on all this stuff. But you can see I've just got the LED strips mounted underneath just a board that I screwed in under, that I'm going to screw in under those 1x4s. This one's just hanging because I wanted to test it and see how it looked. Obviously, it's going to make a big difference. I'm using the 5000K, like the not quite pure daylight, but close enough that it looks really good for a model railroad. I've seen it used on a number of other layouts. My strategy was to wire as many of the sections as possible before I mount them underneath, because obviously it's a lot easier to solder wires. You can see here, these two are connected just fine, but it's a lot easier to do this on a table than if I'm trying to do it, underneath while they're already mounted above the first level of the layout. So I got the first two lengths actually mounted underneath the 1x4s, as you can see, and it was time to make sure, moment of truth, make sure that they actually worked, and super happy. Now again, when I continue working on the second level, there will be like another fascia basically that'll help to block off and force the light down onto the layout even more, so that way you're not seeing the strips raw like you are right now. But then it came time then to work on the second set. I could solder kind of two sets together on the table, but then I would still have to do some soldering. So this is me kind of testing, the fit in place, making sure that solder between the two sets of two sections worked, and obviously it did. And I just took it, again, a chunk at a time. But then my work got interrupted.
Watford Junction, Holyhead, Southampton.
Hopefully you can tell by the accent. These clips are definitely not in the United States. So over winter break, because my wife and I are both teachers, we took our first trip overseas ever to England. I'm a huge Liverpool fan, so I wanted to go see my first Liverpool soccer game in person. But that obviously meant I had to pause the layout. But it was actually really fun being in a country that really prides and puts an emphasis on rail transportation. Not that England's rail is perfect, but certainly a lot better than where I am in the Midwest of the United States. And it was wild just to see how frequently passenger train operations happen in the UK, and at speeds comparable to to what you would find on the Northeast Corridor here in the United States. So, this is a shot. I was in the London Eye. I think this is Waterloo Station. Just a constant inflow and outflow of trains, every time I went. And one thing that really kind of floored me in the UK was just their stations are all open air. Not just where the train platforms are, but everything. The restaurants, shops, because it's a much more temperate climate. Although going at the end of December, early January, not the best time to enjoy the open air. But again, it was just kind of a different, interesting experience to see for sure. So I got back, and critically, the mail strike in Canada had ended, which was big because that's where I get my scenic backdrops from. So the next set of scenic backdrops that I needed, because I didn't want to keep doing the lights until I got the backdrops up, which again, I apologize. I was all excited to, film all of this. As you can see, I'm obviously filming me just simply unboxing. So I filmed the unboxing. I filmed, as you'll see here in a second, me laying out the backdrops to help flatten them before I mount them. And then work got hold of me, and I could barely do 10 minutes of work at a time and didn't think to pause and film it. So I apologize. I'll make sure in the next episode I do a better job of actually filming the work in action so you can see the in progress. Here's me using foam and weights just to help kind of lay it out flat, so that way it's easier. It's not trying to roll up on me while I'm trying to get it mounted. But again, unfortunately, didn't get the footage of me actually mounting it, but you can see all of the backdrops on, which is great, because then I immediately went to work. And you can see this is fresh from soldering because I still got my mask on. I'll take it off here in a second, as you'll see. And as you can see, I then not only did I get the backdrops on, but I kept working on the lights, because you can see I've got the next set of lights going all the way around this kind of half of the layout, right? Because there's a part that's on one half, and you can see I added a remote, and I'm pretty pleased with the results. And this whole side of the layout is now lit up and ready to go. Overall, I was pretty pleased with how these LED strips went. The mounting tape in some spots wore out like within a day, so I had to go back through with some super glue. But if that's my only complaint, I'm feeling pretty good about it. What I'm testing here is the remote that I added also has a dimmer function, so I was kind of testing out just how dim I can get the lights. What does that do and look like? Now, right towards the edge where the drop section is, there's not lights yet because I don't have the second floor infrastructure yet. And you can see I'm going to turn off the main lights and then see what it looks like with just just the lighting on the layout at variable brightness. And I'm thrilled because I think not only does it make a world of difference, but also it's a world of difference because I've got the warm lighting. I haven't changed out the warm lighting for the room lighting yet. But obviously this is the much closer to daytime. And you can see I still have this side of the layout to do, and I got to clean up the layout too. But I got that side of the layout to do as well. But this was a nice little milestone to get done once we got back from our trip. And then I've found time here or there in January to work, so I was able to get the rest of this side done. And you can see again what a difference it makes. Just to have that lighting at the appropriate temperature and just right above the layout coming down. I didn't think it was too overbearing. That was something I was a little worried about. Would it be too powerful? But I didn't think so. Especially as I ran some trains and stuff, I felt it was really nice lighting. And it was just nice to get this important piece done, to inch closer to, not only scenery, but also, I only showed you the first set of steps on my to-do list for the layout. The next one that got cut off just to fit it on the screen is the helix, right? So I still have the whole second level to work on, but this was getting this and getting the backdrops in was a critical step that had to happen. And so here you can see now that I'm turning off all the the main lights, so that way you can just get a chance to see what exactly it looks like to have both sections on at the same time, or both halves of the layout with their lighting on at the same time. I do have them on on separate power, and eventually that'll be true of the layout as well. I'll do power distribution, so that way it just helps ease of wiring. I want to minimize how much wiring is dependent on the drop section being up or the lift out being installed. So I figure it's just much easier just to have separate wiring and also have the layout wiring be separate from the accessory wiring that I'll be putting in for like when I go to light up buildings and put in street lights. I want to keep that separate. And given there's a lot of outlets in this room, I don't think that'll be an issue at all. But you can see I'm really happy with how it turned out. I think the light looks great. Now the key thing is I gotta, put scenery and add fascia and make it worthy of the nice lighting. You might have saw in the background of some of those clips an interesting piece of scenery. I grabbed just some scrap foam, knowing that scenery's coming up. You never want to be in a position where you're trying to do scenery directly on the layout for the first time. And so I wanted to mock up just a quick little scene, and so that way I could, do some practice on how I wanted my ground cover to look. I've got some tree kits that I need to put together. I want to practice putting them together and installing them. And so I just went through. I grabbed a couple extra pieces of flex track, laid that down. And yes, I did go through and paint the rails because I truly wanted this to be a good facsimile for what's on the layout, right? So what's on the layout right now is foam and track with painted rails. And so I wanted to get, ballast, ground cover, all of it. I wanted to make sure I had a chance to really get a sense of, how this might work. And then, I also wanted to play around with different ways to approach using the foam cutters, because I do want to have hills. I don't want it to, I know it's the Midwest, but you can't have it be perfectly flat on the layout. It just doesn't look good. And so I was just kind of tinkering around to see, because I'm using the tools in ways I haven't usually in the past, so I just kind of wanted to see how that would go. And again, I think that's something that's really important. It's something I've learned the hard way, not only with this hobby, but with other hobbies. If you experiment on what you intend to be your final product, you are absolutely gambling, because you don't necessarily have the experience. So you can see I'm doing some stuff with the box cutter too. I'm just trying to figure out what's the cleanest way to get this done in a way that I'm gonna like. And I think I'm actually gonna get a new foam cutter. This one I realized was kind of struggling a little bit. It's just I don't think it's powerful enough. When I looked at the power cord and looked at what amps it was pulling, I just don't think it has enough juice to really do what I needed to do. But again, that's why you practice, because you kind of learn those lessons. So I did then throw some sculpt and mold on top, because that is something I intend to do with the hills. And so you'll see in the next episode me finishing this up and seeing the value of the practice. But the nice thing is with this video, so now the backdrops are installed. There was one little 5-inch strip near where the dropout section is, where I came up short, so I'm going to have to order one more, but I'm counting it done. For all intents and purposes, if all of the backdrop, but literally 5 or 6 inches is covered, that's done in my book, at least for this list is concerned. And more critically, the lighting is done for the first level, which is huge. It's been something I've been, wanting to have happen for a while, but obviously we're at a good point. So the next item on the to-do list is to build the Amazon extension. So where you saw that table where I was doing the foam cutting and the soldering, remember in the track plan, that is actually going to be a kind of a peninsula, but it's a stub-ended peninsula. So the purpose is to have a couple different online industries. One is currently rail served in real life. It gets some tank cars on a regular basis. The other is an actual industry that's here, but it's not rail served. So Amazon has a distribution center right there. That's why I'm calling it the Amazon extension. But in the world of the layout, I'm going to say that it's a mini intermodal facility, because that's how I want it to go. So that's the next step. And then once that's built, that means for all intents and purposes, truly the first level is done from a benchwork track standpoint. And so that's also why I'm really hoping to start making progress again. I've got a little tiny bit of scenery right by the wall done, but not really. And those are kind of the next two chunks I want to tackle before I get to block detection and signaling. There's one signalized set of switches on the main line I want to do. And like I said, I've got about 6 or 7 more steps beyond what's listed here planned out. And the next one after block detection signaling is getting the helix done. So that's, and once I get the helix done, then it'll be intermittent, do a little track work on some scenery. Because you do want to have, your trains, you want to have your trains be able to pass through some stuff and be able to run the trains. And then obviously also farther down the list is weathering both rolling stock and locomotives, expanding the fleet, all of those things as well. So that's kind of what's coming in the near future. So in the next episode, as you can see, I've got a local freight that's going to be coming through here, but it's got an interesting first car lined up, and it's that it's pulling. That's not by accident. So that is a Comet cab car, and in the world of the layout, what I'm saying is the CNW is experimenting with looking at cab car operations for its 400 passenger service because demand continues to grow. Right now, on several of the trains, they have a locomotive on each end. Obviously, it's a lot easier for them to grab additional passenger cars versus additional locomotives. So they're experimenting with some cab car operations so that they can effectively double the passenger locomotive fleet capabilities. So in addition to, in next episode, in addition to showing you work on the Amazon Peninsula and hopefully some scenery start, I'm also going to do kind of I'm calling it like a layout lore update, because again, this is an alternate reality where the Chicago Northwestern still exists. So kind of give you a timeline update, what all did happen in 2014 in the life of the layout, what's happening so far in 2015, because again, this layout is set 10 years in the past. And give you some visuals so you can see map wise what's happening. So but I wanted to make sure I didn't want to wait any longer to get an update out. It's 2025, January's already done. This layout needs an update. I was super thrilled that I could get both the lighting and the backdrops all done, and I can't wait to show you more. So if you haven't already, please make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and as always, we'll see you at the next update, and thanks for all your support. Appreciate it.